Good evening, Simon here, Explosive Action, back with a heavy metal OG press vinyl update. Got 10 records to take a look at. Let's get into it. The first record we're going to take a look at, I showed briefly in my previous shopping trip video from last week, and that is Sortilege with Metamorphose. This is a great one. Debut full length from Sortilege. This is the French language version. Like the Polish band Dragon, Sortilege released their albums in both French and in English, so the lyrics are actually sung in different languages, which is pretty unique. Yeah, this is just a belter of a straight-ahead heavy metal album from France, 1984. It's just full of riffs, it's just memorable hooks and choruses. It's got a lot of power in the riffs, and the production really suits the music quite perfectly, I think. Soaring vocals from Christian Augustin, I believe is his name. Got a good set of pipes on him, really good quality vocals. The bass has got a real heavy punch to it, makes a real like full sound. Like it's a really well produced album. It's got a big sound to it. The band itself, Sortilege, are still apparently going, sort of. I think it's in kind of a Venom Inc. kind of way. You've got the band that Christian is running as Sortilege and a bunch of new people, and then you've got the band without him and the rest of them, the musicians behind the band. So I'm not too sure if that other version is actually active or not, but this is what Metal Archives tells me. But yeah, this is a fantastic little album from France, 1984. I've got their follow-up album from this one, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of, but I've got the French language one of that. I had that first, and yeah, happy to pick up this one. As I said in my last video, it is the Devil's Records press. There's the band looking very French. All the lyrics, the songs, all in French. Got no idea what's going on. Take a look inside, and we get the lyric sheet, which I showed before, all in French, so no idea. And we'll take a look at the record, which has the song titles on one side, nice, and the Devil's Records logo on the other. So very cool, happy to have this one. And yeah, I was playing it earlier again today. Just nice and loud, and that's what it is, just nice, solid quality. 1984, heavy metal, Sortilege, Metamorphose. The next one's a fun one. This is a 4-band compilation from Brazil, 1987. This is the HELLthrashers live compilation. Look at that wonderful sketch-drawn cover there. Pencil shaded Jesus on a cross, and you know it's not going to be in a good way. You get 4 bands from Brazil in the early sort of black thrash scene. MX, who went on to do some things, Necromantia, didn't really, and Blasphemer and Kova, who just did nothing but one demo each and then sort of vanished. And all the 4 bands are playing rough and very dirty, blasphemous death thrash on this compilation. And yeah, like I said, the only band that really went anywhere was MX. I think they still might be going now. I've got their first debut album as well, called Simonical, I think it's called, which is good fun. And yeah, they open up this this compilation as well. All the bands had, it's 1987, like I said, all these bands had clearly seen the success that Sepultura has had with Bestial Devastation, and probably, you know, Sarcophago with their Satanic Lust demo, and just decided to form bands and have a crack at it as well. I imagine that's what happened. I don't know if all these bands were one big scene or not in Brazil, or if there was sort of a tiered Sepultura, Sarcophago over here, and this is sort of the B-tier bands. I don't really know how it all went back there in the day, but this is a fun comp. It's just hugely immature playing, particularly from Kova, the last band. It's raw as hell. Supposedly this is recorded live. It says, take a look at the band on the back here, recorded live at the Municipal Theatre Santo Andre in 29th of January 1987. And look, I've got no doubt the band's just plugged in and hit record and off they went. But at the start and end of every song, there's this crowd applause, and it's got hooting and hollering. It does not sound like the kind of fans that would be going to see this kind of gig. It really doesn't. Not people are going to be seeing an ugly thrash metal concert in 1987. It sounds like the response from an awards show or something. So I'm thinking it's kind of an overdubbed audience. Or other than that, it's the world's most polite audience for this kind of music. But it doesn't sound real. It sounds like it's been put over the top, and that's fine. It kind of adds to the charm of this release, which is kind of a strange one, having all this stuff crammed onto one album like this, when like two of the bands had only done demos at this point. This might have even come out before the demos. I'm not entirely sure. It's almost like one of those regional scene, local regional representation albums of just, this is what's going on in the backyard. It's a fascinating thing. But yeah, it's a fun 8-song listen for some pretty rare early Brazilian material. If you like that Volcano live album, you're going to like this. The production's not going to win any awards whatsoever. It's a bit like Mayhem's live in Leipzig. It's got that kind of that feeling to it. It's perfectly audible. Everything's, I'm not going to say clear, but everything is there. You can hear everything that's going on, and yeah, it's just a fun recording. I love how juvenile and blasphemous these song titles are. We've got Fucking All the Angels, they're from MX. Christian's Exterminator from Necromancia. We've got Blasphemer up here to The End of Jesus Christ. It's just, yeah. And look, it's released on, in fact, I'll take it out to show you the inner of the record, because that's even funnier. It's on Fucker Records. It says fuck or get fucked. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that just absolutely everything you expect for this kind of release from Brazil? Just so raw, so just, there's lots of energy in this for sure. There's all the stuff about the bands. Thrash collage, gotta have a thrash collage. Look at that. They're all just kids. Good fun. And yeah, HELLthrashers. Somebody's some kid's taken a purple crayon to the front. Bit annoying. I did try to get off with a magic eraser. Didn't do much. But yeah, look, it's actually not that hard to get either. There's a handful of copies in the US on Discogs for the 30 to 35 range. And look, if you like that early Brazilian scene, like I said, like that Volcano with the live album, get something like this. It's a good chance to hear bands like Blasphemer and Cova, who only ever had these rare demo tapes, and effectively you get half the demo tape from each band kind of played live or faux live anyway. So there you go. HELLthrashers Live, fun compilation from Brazil. This is another fun one, another compilation, this time from New Zealand, of New Zealand heavy metal from 1986. Attack from Down Under, with a U on the end. Down Under is not always Australia, it can mean New Zealand. Attack from Down Under. Look at that glorious artwork. The barbarians and orcs just all fighting each other. It's incredibly metal. Absolutely love this, and that's why I picked it up. Look, I tripped over this on eBay. I had a save search for just heavy metal vinyl Australia. Take a look, and this thing was there. I'm like, what's that? I bet it's going to be, hair metal and things like that. I'm used to this stuff. You see these covers and it's like, oh yeah, that's heavy metal, and it's not. Turned out it mostly is. And I figured, the price was for a couple of coffees. Why not? I gave it a go. And I'm pretty satisfied with this purchase. So we get tracks from Nightshade, Confessor, Strike Master, Stormbringer, Tokyo, Stonehenge, and Blitz. Names there on the front. Bands you've never heard of, because they've all pretty much just been either one album or one EP or one demo. Bands from New Zealand, very much local region bands. One or two of them have gone a little bit bigger and have a bit of notoriety on the worldwide sort of like classic heavy metal collectors market, but beyond that, I've never heard of any of these bands. It's a mixed bag of quality, so I will say that. Most of the bands play 2 songs. The opening track is by Nightshade. It's called Blood and Money. This one was a little bit close to being just borderline sort of glam AOR for my taste. Very basic arena rock vibe. But it was tolerable, and it got me onto the next one, which was Confessor. And that sort of started like there's going to be a ballad or something. So I'm going, okay, a bit worried about this album now. But it kicks into gear for some big, solid metal riffs. And it's a good track, so that was a good one. Strike Master did So Many Faces. This is a speedy one, like Warlord, something with peppery drums, which were really good. Stands out due to its very gratuitous Hammond organ. It even gets a Hammond organ solo. Very impressed with the Hammond organ solo. Stormbringer up next with Bridge Crusher. What a great title for a song. They're just trying to sound extremely British. It opens with, it's got really nasal vocals and this incredibly Judas Priest style, riffing style, Iron Maiden kind of stuff as well. But it's, yeah, the vocals are very much just trying to sound like new wave of British heavy metal, but from Kiwi land. So that was fun. I wouldn't mind digging into more from that band, trying to get their album, if that was possible. They did a full length in '86, but it's not going to be cheap. There's like one on Discogs for 300 plus or something, and unlikely, but you never know, might trip over something like that. And the last one on side A is a band called Tokyo. Did a song called Lonely Hearts. Similar style to Strike Master, but just a tad more ballady. But they got a good singer, so the singer was good, carried that one. The second side, Strike Master, has another song, Your Time Has Come. It sounds similar to the last one, but the Hammond organ is now sort of a spooky synth, so it was also a bit of fun. As I said, I wouldn't mind their album. It's just not obtainable, which is annoying. Nightshade, again, came back, they do Free Love. Again, a little bit too close to that AOR glam sound for me, so they're not particularly the band that I'm the most enamored with on here. But it is a bit more metal than their previous track. It does have a bit more balls to it. Then we get this one, Stonehenge, and the song here is called Warlords. According to Discogs, so that's a misprint. It's actually called Burning Fever, and it's sort of just basic hard rock kind of thing. It speeds up at the end, gets a bit better. Then there's the second Stormbringer track here, Self-Destruct. Got a good hook in this one. It's definitely B-side kind of track. Bit heavy on the AC/DC kind of vibes. So not exactly. This track up here, Bridge Crusher, was much better. And the final track here is Blitz, Key to Your Heart, and that's got a solid kind of just driving force riff to it. That's nice, but the problem with this one is the vocalist, dead set to my ears, sounds like Mr. Garrison from South Park, and that just kind of blew the whole thing for me. So yeah, I mean, that's Attack from Down Under, and yeah, it's as I said, it's a mixed bag of these just random bands from New Zealand having like one or two songs. As for the record itself, as I said, it only cost me a couple of coffees. Take a look in here first. Is there a lyric? No, there isn't a thing. So the record, it's out on, what is this thing on? Receiver Records. It's on Receiver Records. Never heard of them, and it has seen better days. I wonder if it'll even come across here if I reflect it a bit. You might be able to see a giant scratch here, giant scratch up there. Yeah, the old VG rating, I think it was. No, I'm afraid not. Even after a wet clean, this thing plays pretty bad, which is a shame. The Stonehenge track is kind of unplayable. It skips about 8 times. Just got to keep darting the stylus around, so that's annoying. But like I said, look, it's kind of a novelty almost. I got it for the cover. Some of the songs are good, some of them are average. And it cost me a couple of coffees in price, so whatever. Attack from Down Under, New Zealand heavy metal comp from 1986. Into a bit more familiar territory now, we have the second album from Rage, Execution Guaranteed. Been after this one for a while, and it was funny, I was talking to Mr. BVD about this particular release, and he was saying, oh look, you'll find it sooner or later, it'll come up sooner or later. It came out like 4 days later. It's kind of ridiculous, and I know Marty's said this before, that I have great luck, and this doesn't detract from that. I do just kind of trip over things. So anyway, yeah, Rage, Execution Guaranteed. 1987, out on Noise Records, following up the 1986 album Reign of Fear, which I've got, which is very good. This one is just a fun, high-energy speed metal album. It's got sort of the early Running Wild, early Scanner, or just Noise Records bands is basically what this thing is. You know, the Scanner stuff sort of comes across in the slightly progressive tinges during particularly the guitar leads. But I actually got a bit of, on this particular album, not on their previous one, but on this one I got a bit of Risk Speed Kills, just a bit of vibe from that album on this one, which was interesting. The drumming on this, very meaty, just a big powerhouse of drumming. Cracking snare, love the snare sound on this one. Double kicks have a fat sound, but it's also kind of flat in the production. It's just got a, you know, you can tell there's an intensity there with the way the double kicks are done. When they go off, they properly go off, it nearly drowns out everything else that's being played. So yeah, it could have worked the levels a bit more perhaps when they were putting this one together. I love the disembodied hand there with the little bones and the gore dripping out of it. It's just fantastic. Rhythm guitar on this has got a fantastic thick crunch to it. It's a real just heavy metal riff sounding thing. The bass sort of just plays along with the guitar, has a you know, it just fattens that sound even more, which is good. And what got me on this one is this album's got those kind of unexpected like keyboard strikes that I hadn't heard since I was listening to like Children of Bottom or something, you know, like it's just riffs are going along and just dun, that kind of thing, like Bottom would do. Rage were doing it back in '87, which, yep, I didn't realise that till I put this on for the first time. Vocally, it's kind of like, where's the Mr. Vocals down here? PV here on vocals and bass. Vocally, it's kind of like Accept, but also when he wants to, he sort of goes for the King Diamond, both the highs and the lows, you know, the snarls and that falsetto combination. Whole thing keeps a solid pace, which is nice. Not very, you know, it doesn't get too slow or too ridiculously fast. It's just a nice solid pace all the way through. Side A close of those Street Wolf is probably the one that does slow it down the most. Has a big sort of power metal, sort of just like that slow double kick all the way through it, like the early power metal bands would do. Which, you know, Rage, as I said, a bit of Scanner in here, it's a bit of progressive, a bit of power metal. It's definitely an evolution from the first album, which was way more raw. Side B opener, Deadly Error. That one's got a bit of a flamenco guitar intro, making it, you know, a very, very tasteful start to that side. And definitely has the most sort of progressive feel. It's got some electronic samples and things in it. Makes it feel kind of spacey and otherworldly. And then there's this instrumental Grapes of Wrath, which is just a big journey of progressive metal at this time. Definitely their most interesting track of just all kinds of flavors and things going on there. But yeah, ultimately, when it comes down to it, the album is a speed metal album, and it's good fun. Just a late 80s speed metal, and definitely a step up from the debut. Take a look in here. We get the Noise inner there with lots of cool stuff. There's your Running Wilds, some Gravedigger. There's Reign of Fear, the first one. Your Halloweens, your Sinners. Yeah, all the good stuff. Celtic Frost. And we take a look at the record. And yep, just a nice Noise pressing there. Really good nick, this one. Just another black record, nothing too exciting, but it's in good condition, so very happy with that one. There you go, that's Rage with Execution Guaranteed. So my question to you, do I need to continue on this path? Is the third album the one that's got sort of the metal robot-y thing on the front? Is that worth my time? Keeping in mind I'm looking for sort of speed metal, actual balls out metal. I don't want to go when the band becomes sort of hard rock or something like that. Do they stay metal? Let me know. Do they keep the rage? Then I'll rage with them. Time for some more thrash now. We have Intruder with a higher form of killing. great cover artwork on this one. That's what drew me in. This is one that I'd seen on Discogs a while ago, a couple of years ago, never bought it. But then it was on for sale in a local Facebook group, and Mr. BVD, he pointed it out to me, and thank you to him, I now have this copy in my hand. Yeah, it's a good, solid thrash album. It starts off with, you know, it's your topical thrash stuff. Starts off with a faux news report of like terrorists and things, and it does that, you know, channel changing static as it goes through all the different news reports. So many bands have done that. But then it kicks into the most sort of south of heaven Slayer riffs that I've heard in ages. You know, drums as well. The whole thing just sounds like 89 to 91 Slayer thrash in that opening song. It is just pure Slayer. That south of heaven kind of thing. Seasons of the Abyss, that level of Slayer. It just hit me as soon as I played that track. Even the vocals are kind of like an attempt at Tom Araya. You know, in that they don't really have a tone to them. It's just sort of shouty, yeah, just, you know, that opening track, just razor sharp, rumbling bass. It was just a good, solid thrash song, Bay Area style. But these guys are from Nashville, which was interesting. The Nashville thrash, without a hint of country music in it, I can be assured to tell you. But as the album goes on, so I thought, oh, we're just going to get sort of a Slayer clone as I'm playing this. I'm like, keep going on, and there's more like Heathen and then Toxic, so they're starting to get a bit more technical. There's the gang shouts, so a bit of Anthrax kind of thing going on there. We've got let's see, the end of side A here, which it was all going well, and then it ended with a I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, which is a Monkees cover, and really they could have done without it. It's got some sort of comedy laughs and things in it, and the whole thing is tongue-in-cheek. I never liked it when bands did that. I hated when Megadeth just threw in like these boots are made for walking and all that kind of stuff. Don't do it, guys. Just put in your normie track and do a thrash cover in the middle of your album. Save it for the B-side of an EP. That's what I always think. But anyway, it kind of went like green jelly. You know, green jello, depending where you're from. That kind of, you know, little pig, lamb pig. That's where the vocals were going with it. It was, oh man, are they ruining this or what? Thankfully that went away. We get on to side 2. It kept some of that humour in the thrash for kind of the rest of the album, but it still raged on for the rest of it. It never really, though, that Slayer stuff from Time of Trouble on side 1, that was really the big highlight thrash song, and then they kind of played in different styles of you know, a little bit of party thrash and that bit of tech thrash, bit of progressive stuff, like I was saying, Toxic and Heathen, that kind of thing, all over the map. And it's an interesting thing to listen to be honest. So there you go. There's the band down there, looking incredibly 80s thrash. Look like they're all clones of each other, all wearing the sleeveless tops. And yeah, that's about it. Intruder with a higher form of killing. We'll take a look inside. Not too sure if this was a one and done. I didn't look that up. Maybe it was. Maybe they went on and did other things. I'm not too sure. But nice. Road Racer pressing. Just yeah, nothing too exciting, but it is a nice press. Sounds good. And yeah, happy to have it. So not like an A-tier thrash album. It's not absolutely mandatory, but it was good fun. And yeah, enjoyed listening to it. So Intruder, higher form of killing. This next one is the second album from an American progressive thrash band, 1989, Anacrusis with Reason. And man, there's a lot going on this one. This took, I've had 2 spins so far of this one. I've not unpacked it all, that's for sure. There's kind of a voivod type thing going on here, so you don't digest it straight away. It's not particularly to easy thing to pin this down as like a raging, head-banging thrash album. Their first one, Suffering Hour, it was a bit more straightforward. They had these progressive leanings, but it was a bit more straightforward. I had that one for a few years. But this one, they've been reading their books, I think, on musical theory. Wild drums with lots of fancy double kick patterns and triplets and things. And then some sort of calm interludes that just has sort of bass guitar breaks. whole bunch of time changes, technical guitar wizardry. That's just the first song, which is yeah, Stop Me is actually one of the highlights on here actually. The vocals on this from Ken Nardi, who must be the guy here in the blue, and also guitar. Man, he's got tortured vocals. They are like, he'll go from like Gregorian chant kind of stuff through to just almost black metal screams. It is a really strange mix of vocal. The second track, Terrified, that's a little bit more in traditional thrash territory when how that starts off, but it evolves, gets a bit more technical, becomes a bit of a demonstration, honestly, as that one goes along. Whole bunch of sort of, they appear to be sort of disconnected passages, or just sort of linked together to make a song, but they're more like just individual pieces of just technical thrash. If that makes sense, like they don't fully become a cohesive song. That's why I think this is an album that's going to take me a few listens to really follow what's going on, because on the surface you don't find immediate songs. You find lots of creative technical thrash and progressive metal and that kind of stuff. Lots of musical and even vocal experimentation going on here. Like I said, some of his stuff is chanting and sometimes it's just harsh. They're all complex songs. They leave you guessing as to where they're going to go. You know, sometimes they border on like Watchtower level of craziness. It's an all over the shop kind of album, this one. But every now and then they will get a more straightforward riff. It's pulled back. It's a bit more standard for this band. And when it is, it kind of reminds me of like Sanctuary, and that's when it's just sort of bit more plain progressive metal kind of thing. And I understand the band after this album sort of shed their thrash. It became just solely progressive metal, but I've not heard anything after Reason. I've only heard the first album and this one so far. So let me know what you think of the albums that follow this. If they're good, if they completely did lose their thrash, I'd be curious about that. The production, I think that's a bit of an issue probably for this album. When it came out, I didn't mind it too much, but it's very flat. It's kind of like a poor man's Morrisound production on this thing. Probably impacted how it was received. And I was reading about it, and it seems that when you find the Anacrusis fan, who is like, they love all the albums, a lot of the time they pick Reason as their least favorite. So that's an interesting thing to me. But anyway, yeah, could have been nice to have a bit more brighter, stronger production on this, but there you go. Anacrusis with Reason. This thing came out on Active Records. Take a look inside, and we get lyrics, usual. There's the band, looking very progressive. And take a look in here. Nice black record, of course, on Active, and yeah, nothing much else to look at there. So yeah, it's a solid album, but I need to spend a lot more time with it, I think, to really grasp what's going on here, what the guys were trying to do on Reason. So there you go, Anacrusis with Reason. Look at this cover. Look at it! The execution in the name of metal. Do I need to say anything more about this thing? This is some sloppy, punky, extremely rough, triple speed Motorhead type inspired heavy metal here from Executioner. That kind of sums it all up for you. The first track here is called Victims of Evil. It is so fast that the band can't keep up with it. They're dropping shit as they're playing. They literally are. And they're just smashing it out. I don't think they've been playing their instruments for very long. Maybe they were drunk. I don't know. But they just smash and bark the thing out, and then it ends on a high scream of who's the singer here? Mark Johnson there in the middle. He goes, "Victims of Evil," and then it just stops, and it's utterly hilarious. I thought it was brilliant. And that song's like a minute 50. That's the punk vibes going on this thing. There's a lot of short songs. Most of the songs barely touch 3 minutes. which is great. It's like a super ultra primitive version of Kill 'Em All mixed with like some Hyrax demos recorded on Hellhammer's 4-track, and then somebody got their kid to make this cover, and that is Executioner's In the Name of Metal. The title track itself, In the Name of Metal, is their attempt to slow down and find a groove, but the rest of it is just kids hitting things really fast, and that's fine. It's a fun album. It's juvenile. They have a follow-up album I haven't heard, but like the Metal Archives reviews on it were terrible. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this, honestly. Why it happened, why this exists, what the story is behind this band. But it's fun, and I had to buy it because there's heads on spikes. This is just like the world's most... If you drew this at school, you would have been... You know, your parents would have had to go and talk to the principal. That's what this is, and I think, you know, if they read the lyrics, then you were probably going to get hauled up in front of the principal too. It's a fun album, and it's on... we'll pull it out here. Executioner In the Name of Metal on Renaissance Records, which is kind of ironic because... man, these guys skipped the Renaissance, I think. It is Executioner In the Name of Metal. What a glorious album cover. Another one with a great title. This is from a Chicago-based band. The band is called Quick Change. The album is called Circus of Death. I think that's a great title. And this is the kind of album that Pat from Ground Zero Salem would call average thrash. And would say so fondly, and I think that is a great description. This is very safe sounding thrash from 1988. It does exactly what dozens of bands did before it, like, you know, think Violence, Defiance, Viking, Whiplash's third album, that kind of stuff. Some of those things, you know, might have come later than this, but this just is in that style of just safe thrash, just average thrash. It's solid, it's chuggy, groovy stuff. Occasionally breaks a sweat, just to mop its brow, but it mostly stays mid-pace. It actually sounds, which is why, you know, being similar to the third Whiplash album is interesting. It sounds kind of more 1990 than it does 1988 when it came out. Maybe Quick Change were sensing where things were going with thrash. Maybe these guys were actually pioneers. Yeah, I don't know, but it does sound later than it actually is. I thought that was interesting. It's got, you know, just pounding drums and nice chunky guitars, sort of snotty, clean vocals. They attempt high notes and usually fail and end into squeals. Has some respectable solos. It's just interesting enough to keep you listening, and look, it's thoroughly entertaining. Look at the guys; they're having a laugh, and it's a you know, it's one of those like middle tier Roadrunner albums. Back when Roadrunner was just putting out so much stuff, it's just one of those ones, right? You know, it's interesting without being challenging or demanding you to learn what a new time signature is or anything like that. Sometimes the songs, like the band don't know how to end them, so they just sort of let it, you know, they just do the live trick of just doing all the double kicks and hitting all the cymbals and just play on the guitar and then diddle 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 doom smash, and that's the end of the song, and they do that like 4 times. Just, I don't know what you call that, but they just sort of play it out. That's kind of fun because they couldn't work out how to end the song. But you know, yeah, the title track itself, Circus of Death here on side 2, it starts with these like maniacal kids laughing, and it's been processed, and then this like demon that laughs back at them. It's a really weird intro. I presume that's the kids at the circus, and then like an evil circus master or something like that. The track itself, though, is probably the most ripping, just straight ahead thrash thing on this album. Next to, I think, Death Games, the 4th track on side B, that is when they hit their peak and just blast it out. Like, it's actually a legit fast thrash song, and has sort of gang shouts of the lyrics. That one's kind of funny with the lyrics. There's just got one part where the gang shouts just going, kill, die, see, death, you're dead. That's the lyrics. I thought that was brilliant. Track here, which one is it? Battle Your Fear. That wholesale steals a riff from Master of Puppets. They were not even trying to hide that one. But you know, this kind of album, where I said it's like a you've heard it all before kind of thrash. I half expected for that to actually happen. So, you know, I don't hold it against them. I kind of applaud them for doing it. You know, it's like I said, it's hard to specifically recommend this album over anything else because it's just so average thrash. But look, there's nothing bad about that. It's a charming album, particularly in 2022, and I put this kind of thing on. I'm searching this kind of stuff out to just find these bands that were off the side, did one album, or maybe one album, then a lot of them sort of came back in, like, you know, 2005 and went, we're back, and they failed miserably. But, you know, quick change here with Circus of Death. If you're finding yourself, as I am, in the sort of consume all the 80s thrash wagon, then look, there's no harm in adding Quick Change, Circus of Death to that list on Roadrunner Records. We'll take a look quickly in here. There's the standard lyrics again, very bland. There's the band, 5-piece. Funk bomb on the double kicks. Not so much funk on this one, I have to say there. But, yep, there you go. Nice Roadrunner. And when I was playing it earlier, I actually kind of laughed that it is such an average thrash album that even the grooves themselves are at average spacing, because everything is just the same length song. It's on both sides. Yeah. It's just the same length songs. Just standard average thrash, and that's fine. So here you go. Quick Change, Circus of Death. It's fun. This next one is such an opposite in the thrash realms to the Quick Change that I just showed. It's just remarkable. Finally, I have my hands on Artillery by Inheritance. Man, this is a monumental album. It opens with like a Middle Eastern sounding instrumental with a real proggy drum pattern going on there. You know instantly that the band are way more refined than the Artillery that came before from Terror Squad, which was just an angry thing, and the one, what is it, the first one called? I think it's Reign of Terror, something along those lines. That one is just an ugly thrash album. This one, no, absolutely not. These guys have just really, literally progressed on this album. The first track proper on here is called Co-Maniac. You get a small intro, then you get Co-Maniac. That is just a catalogue of technical, progressive thrash techniques. It is absolutely marvellous. It is shreddy, yet it's melodic. The drums are clean, have fast triplets, lots of double kicks. The powerhouse, absolute powerhouse vocals from Fleming Rosdorf. Not sure which one he is on here, but he's one of those guys. It's just absolutely amazing. And a genuinely good metal vocalist, really good. There's a big focus on musicality in this album. Lots of lead trade-offs. Presumably there's 2 lead guitars in this mix, and they sound fantastic. Each song though has a real cracking chorus and has lots of hooks. So they've written proper songs here that, you know, just sort of tie it all together. It's not just a catalogue of progressive and technical stuff like I've mentioned on a previous album in this update that feels disconnected, like the Anacrusis did a bit. This one is, they've made songs, actual legit songs. You can feel yourself singing the chorus to Beneath the City R.I.P. I'm hearing it in my head right now. That's a shower singing song, and that's a sign of a quality song. So good. There's a lot packed into these 10 tracks. Absolutely. Excluding there's a Nazareth cover in here. I'm not too sure which one that is. The tracks range from 4.5 minutes to 7 minutes long. So there's a lot being packed in. Yeah, all pistons are firing with this band. The third time is the try with By Inheritance. And this is not news to anyone. I'm not talking any particular revelation here. This album has a 95% rating on Metal Archives from 21 reviews. That is exceptional. And I'm not late to the party. I mean, I've heard this thing for a long time. I've just never managed to get a copy. But now I have picked up this thrash classic. It's just taken me that long. They don't show up very often, not these original ones, so yeah, absolutely stoked to have this one. It's a fantastic album. Take a look inside. Again, fairly average looking lyric sheet. There's the band there, got artillery written over the front, all trying to look off into the distance. And thanks list, and in here a very nice and reasonably clean Road Racer with the old logo. And yep, there you go. So nice pressing, sounds fantastic, and yeah, I am stoked to have this one. It listed on, I've had this one on my Discogs wish list for a long time. I check my wish list multiple times a day, I have to say, and it showed up, and I don't think I even read the price. It was just, yep, bang, add to cart. Oh shit, what did I pay? No, it was alright, it wasn't too bad. It was actually fairly reasonable considering it's so hard to find this original Road Racer pressing. Artillery by Inheritance, genuine thrash classic. The 10th and final record for this update is the heaviest thing on this update, and it is a very early album in the genre and something I've been after for the longest time. I picked it up through a Facebook friend, somebody that reached out to me and said, "Are you still looking for this album?" And I said, yes. Yes, I am. I am talking about Sempiternal Death Reign, The Spooky Gloom. What a fantastic album this one is. Absolute highlight for this update. A very early Death Doom classic from the Netherlands, 1989. Didn't even occur to me when I was buying this that it was a Death Doom album from the 80s. That is incredibly early for that substyle. That's about the only thing similar at the time would have been Autopsy's Severed Survival. That's about what you've got. But this is slower, like Winter's Into Darkness, but that came out a year later. You know, fellow countryman Asphyx was still at demo stages in '89. Sempiternal Death Reign they had the album out first, and it's a crushing thing. It is one of the earliest examples of Death Doom. It has that pained vocals that are very Autopsy-like. Musically, it sort of goes, you know, being sort of one of the first of the genre, it doesn't always just go Death Doom and just stay slow or anything like that. I think they probably started this just going, we're going to make a death metal album, and they happened to do a lot of slow songs. But there's plenty in here where you know, the tracks go from 2 minutes up to 10, and the speeds differ depending on the length of the track. Like there's things that are just very Autopsy speed, bang, 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 bang. And then there's the crushing slow songs that you would think from someone like Asphyx, and then even slower like Winter. Really good crunchy guitar tone on this, real thumping drums. The whole thing sounds kind of warm and, I'm going to say, cavernous, but 1989 cavernous. Like it's just a big analog recording, and it sounds fantastic. An excellent album, especially when you consider when this thing came out. There's the band there on the back, kind of looking progressive, though not in the usual progressive way, that's for sure. They were certainly being very different though, and they look very, very young, like kids. Absolutely. Foundation 2000 press. So I was really stoked to be offered this one for a very reasonable price. And there's a few, according to Discogs, there's 3 variants of this release, and the variants all come down to the color of the lyric sheet. This one is the green, it's got sort of a green tinge to it, and there's a grey, and there's a purple, but yeah, this is sort of the greeny tinged one. It's very, very pale, but yeah, I take that as being the green one. And yeah, so you get lots of all band photos there, which, you know, maybe they were probably doing this in '88 and then it came out '89. Shows you how young this stuff is. Asphyx is actually mentioned here on the back. Special thanks to Eternal Solstice, another good band, Bob and Asphyx. We've got a band called Heptic. We've got Mick from Napalm Death. Thanatos is thanked. Metallion from Slayer Magazine is thanked. Yeah, other scene dudes. Pestilence. This is just early stuff, and it's very, very cool. So yeah, there's the guys there. And the record, take a look at here. Again, just obviously black because it's the 80s. But there you go, nice Foundation 2000 press. And the side, very cheeky. There's some of the band there having a bit of a smile. Which is nice, having a smile when you're doing putrid Death Doom. We don't have to always be gloomy, even if your album is called The Spooky Gloom. But this is a solid album, and I'm really thrilled to have it. I love the artwork too. There you go. There's the guys again on The Spooky Gloom by Sempiternal Death Rain. That is the update. 10 records. I think we ended with a bit of a banger there on the end. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed. The next video you will see from me will definitely be my end of year list. So I will be probably putting that out on New Year's Eve Australian time. We will see if I get that out on time. I should also be making an appearance in a few days on the Heavy Metallurgy stream. They're doing a roundup of the year. Everyone's going to be doing their top 5s, so should be a big one. Lots of fun. Hope you can join us there on Marty Worm's channel, Heavy Metallurgy. And in the meantime, make sure you like this video, subscribe, check out this thing, check out that thing. I'll see you next time.